It's me, Galen. How are you doing? Galen's got Parkinson's. I'm going to just looking at ways of drawing fantasy maps. I'm doing it for my world of Jural, but they don't have to be fantasy maps, to be honest. You can do them for Dungeons and Dragons. You can do them for fantasy wargaming. You can do them for historic orthodox wargaming, just to give the battle a bit more of an interesting feel. You give one of these as your sketch map to the opposing commanders. It just adds a bit of personality rather than an ordnance survey map type drawing, especially if you're doing earlier periods, Dark Ages, something like that. I just thought to start off nice and simple. So nothing complicated. I'm going to do road, trees, hills. So if I was doing the road, if I'm doing a trackway, I simply do a series of dashes. I'm using a 0.05 millimeter fine line pen, and the important thing is that it is waterproof. The reason for that is that I often, having finished a map, will then use a tea bag soaked in hot water, and I will squeeze out the tea in the tea bag and paint it to give a sepia sort of a feel to it. If it's not waterproof, it'll run. I have been known in the past to do maps or scrolls or diagrams of traps and bury them in the garden for a month and dig them up when they're all moulded, and then dry them out, roll them up, throw them in a box, and over time, sometimes years, you forget what you've written on them. And then when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and somebody finds a scroll, you can do a lucky dip, stick your hand in there and pull something out. And there could be all sorts of random bits of code. Some of mine I've done codes, I can't remember what they were. Now, so I'm going to call that's a trackway. But coming down from here is a road. And all I've done is the road is going to come in a straight line. Some people think that perhaps doing thick lines, or some people do red lines. I just do a black line. And then if the people you're playing with get confused, well, that's their problem, isn't it? Sometimes life's like that. If I was going to do a river with a bridge, I would sort of say, okay, I'll do, this is going to be the bridge here. Like that. That's the bridge. There. And the river is going to go underneath the bridge. So the river's going to come down here, all meandery. I'll explain what happens when you go over the trackway in a sec. So that's clearly now a river, because it's got two sides. It's going under a bridge. And then there, where it crosses the trackway, that must be fordable. So I put a stylized letter F across there. And then because the river gets wider going that way, it must be fordable going that way. So put an arrow. And eventually I make it into one line. But you know it's a river because you can follow it back here. For the road then goes onto the bridge, over the bridge, and off the other side like that. So it crosses the river. I don't do anything more complicated than that. Often where there's a bridge, I think, well, there must be a village. And again, this will be slightly more than a village, because it's going to be more than one building. It's probably a farm or an outhouse. And I just do this tiny, ridiculous looking house but I'll put several. If I put more than one, it's more than a village. Let's put another one there. Now you could put two side by side, so you can do that. Like that. You can put another one joined on. Like that. And you start to develop a settlement. So trees. There's a big space over here. If you look at a lot of the Tolkien drawn maps, he tends to do trees just a bit like that, like a sort of a cone thing. I tend to do more of a cloudy, archetypal cauliflower thing, like that. If you want a wood, you can put one behind, like that. And if you've room, you can put a stick. But if you've not got room, imagine this whole thing is a big, massive forest. So you do a huge higgledy-piggledy forest here. See, it's not pretty. And I'm going to have it come further than those trees. And here, I'm going to have it come further than those trees. Like this. There's a reason for that. That's because here, I'm going to put the tree trunks. And here. But here, I'm just going to put other pretend bits of trees. As if they're maybe oak trees. Like this. Now you could, if you were inclined, do an entire forest by simply doing every tree individually. I enjoy doing this. It takes a long time, but you can sort of sketch it out more. And I'm not, I've got Parkinson's, I've got wobbly hands. Yeah, it's a mess. I know it is. That's part of its charm. I tell my friends. Parkinson's. If people who've got Parkinson's, if you watch programs and they talk about Parkinson's, very rarely does anybody say it's an illness that's rather charming, but it is. So you could do the sort of Tolkien-esque trees, or you can do with the cauliflower trees. You do whatever tree you want. It might be something different. I don't ever mix fir trees and deciduous trees. Fir trees, I do a stick, and I do perhaps a longer stick than that, to be honest. And then I just go up that side. You've got to make the noise, and down that side. And that side. And I'm not trying to follow the stick. This is all symbolic. Symbolic sticks. How's that? They're not even, these are not even touching. This is a mess. But it don't matter. Because you see the next sticks go there. And that does that. And that does that. I don't know what you're going to think when you watch me. I'm going to put the fir trees. Let's do a hill. Let's have a hill in here. So you just do a hill. And then ideally you want more hills than that. So we do another hill. Where's there a big space? Up here, there. You could do a hill there. Like that. Then you do another hill there. You can do another hill there. Then you can bring him that way. Do a hill there. Do a hill there. I'm going to move the paper. Bear with me. Wrong way. There. And then, if that's choose one side to be shaded. And just put little lines up. Like that. And again, in actual fact, not being very accurate makes it more interesting. Let's put a cave in it. There we go. That's an idea. Have a cave in that one. Mysterious cave. What else could we do? I know, let's do... I said I wasn't going to do trees and hills, didn't I? Let's do some standing stones. So you could do standing stones. You could just do them like that. There you go. Standing stones. Or you could do standing stones that were a sort of Stonehenge. Do one here. There you go. Stonehenge. Looks like railway buffers. So, what you can do, you say, okay, let's thicken one side and the bottom. Thicken its bottom. Like that. And then you could put dots on or scratches to indicate that it's rough. And then you put a bit of ground around it. Like that. Maybe you want it on a hill. Like that. So, they are simple, dead easy ways of just doing some fantasy maps. I know there's better ways. I do. I understand that. But I'm just going to show you what you can do. So I'm going to do a tower. Hang on. Tower. Oh, hang on. What's happening now? Oh, it's a church tower. In a bit, there's a big building here. There you go. You can, if you can be bothered, or if you're capable. Put tiles on it. Could make that a door. Why not? And they deliberately were wobbly. The lads that made this didn't have rulers. So this track now is going to go down here. Must be to the south, mustn't it? Because it's going downwards. I think that's how it works. But then coming along here is a road. It's past here. I always say if it's got one building, it's a homestead or a farm. If it's got two buildings, it's a village. If it's the definition of a hamlet, I don't know if you probably know. I'm sorry if this is condescending, but a hamlet is a village without a church. I always do 4 buildings will be a town, and then 6 buildings will be a city, or I suppose you don't have to do all those buildings, but you could start to suggest them back here. So I've done 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm starting to suggest a city. And by suggest, I mean use your imagination. And then you can just have a play with it. If something don't look right, don't matter. It's your drawing. What I would say is, don't worry about it. My hand is even hitting the paper. I think that building's caught fire. Hello! I'll do a little fire engine being pulled by a horse and cart. If this river rises in those hills, just do that. Like that. Yeah. You want a bit of a swamp, boggy ground in this bend. Always put it on both sides. I always like to try and go for odd numbers as well. There I go, bit of boggy ground. I've pretty much filled my paper, haven't I? Now, I'm only saying that you could have a pleasant evening just sat with a bit of paper drawing a fantasy map. I mean, my whole world of Joral, which I know some of you will have seen, started off I had a D20, and I sort of wrote down, if I throw a 1, it's a hill. If I throw a 2, it's a wood. If I throw a wood, 1 and 2, it's dense. 3 and 4, it's medium. 5 and 6, it's light. And then I threw for another 17, a mountain. Then I threw for, is it civilized? Are there any buildings there? Is it farmland? Is there more than one piece of terrain? You could throw a D6, you could throw a D3 if you want, throw what you like. And then you draw them on, and then you start to make sense of it. So you think, okay, I've got a river. At the first one you do, there's nowhere to go. But now on my second one, that river is going somewhere. So if on the one above there's going to be another river, it's going to join that river. This river down here is going to keep coming down here. It'll come off the paper and it'll join the next one. And then if you call this A1, that would be A2 down there. And slowly over time you draw a fantasy world. This is an introduction. I'll try and be more specific later on with other things. But if you took that as your map, you could add some names on. You could do your famous, which I will do at some point, get a tea bag in hot water, nice and wet, let it soak out so it gets full of tea, and then just use the tea bag and dot it all over. If you rub it too vigorously like a brush, your tea bag will pop and you'll end up with it covered in tea leaves. And then you can drop a little sprinkling of coffee here and there, and it makes like age spots. The other thing you can do, which is dead exciting, but be warned, I've often taken things outside, rolled them up like a scroll, and then set fire to the two ends. If you're not quick, you can lose it all. But if you stand by with a cup of water, the moment it looks like it's getting too burnt, throw a cup of water on it. It'll be all right. So you can age things really nice and make them look all old. And that's good. I like doing that. And then you can roll it up and you can throw it in a big shoebox and forget about it. And do some more. Do codes, do poems, do anything. And then you give them the same treatment. And then you put them in your box. And then when your Dungeons and Dragons players find something, or a pirate in your War Games pirate game breaks into a church or a hovel or a cultist's den, they might find one at random and you give it them, but you don't tell them what it is, and they have to look at it and go, what's that? Well, you don't know because you did it 3 years ago and you've forgotten. That's good, isn't it? All right then, I'll see you later. Ta-da, chuck.